Well, good morning, Peak City. How y'all doing? I tell you what, y'all might be the only church I know of that you look better every time I come back. Seriously, you guys look amazing. I was watching you worship, and I was worshiping with you this morning, and I observed. I think it was probably the Carolina fans that were worshiping a little bit more enthusiastically today. The Duke fans, you just need Jesus right now to come in and soothe the pain and the wounds, I know. But it won't be the last time you guys hook up. It'll be good. But that's always fun. I'm glad to be here. I don't really give up many weekends with my family, but when Pastor Nate calls and says, hey, can you come spend the weekend with us, I always consider that something to be a blessing to me. I love the fact that you guys keep having me back. And, I got a lot of love for your pastor. He's QB1 around here. He's all pro. He's MVP. He's all those things. I'm just kind of the backup quarterback. So my job today is to not lose the game, okay? That's the only job I've got. He's the one that's going to get it in the end zone and do the things. But love that guy. Love being able to minister with him. He and I have known each other for 20-something years now. And we've had the opportunity to serve on stages together, serve on staffs together, and he's always an incredible encouragement and blessing to me. And your staff is second to none. In fact, give them some love right now if you appreciate the Peak City staff. So before we jump into this series, I was outside earlier today, and Pastor Nate, what do you call the volunteers here? Are they volunteers? The dream, I love that. I was out with the dream team helping put up a tent, and they were out putting up the signs, and I got to tell you, man, they're heroes. They get up early, some of them stay late, and they help set up, they help tear down, they help get everything back together, and obviously from the report Pastor Nate gave, there's coming a day where you won't have to set up and tear down again. Y'all know that, right? That day's coming. It is coming. God's got his hand of favor on Peak City, and that day is coming. But now, in the meantime, you're set up, you're tear down, you're doing an amazing job. What a great space that you have here. And they're the heroes that make it happen. And I just want to encourage you, if you're out there and you're looking to have just some significance in your life, get on the dream team. Talk to Pastor Nate. Come and be part of that, because setting the proverbial table, it matters. And they help set the table when new people come in and get to experience the love of this family and, most importantly, the love of Christ. So just want to encourage you, get on that dream team. He didn't ask me to say that, but I know how this goes. I've launched campuses before. I've helped do portable before, and it takes a village. Amen? Amen. Well, hey, enough of that. Today we're kicking off a brand new series. It's called Modern Love, and it's all about relationships. All right, and if you've learned anything about me in the times that I've been here, or if I come back again and I have that opportunity, you'll learn this. I'm not that complicated. Like, I prefer things that are simple. Do I have any fans out there of simple? Yeah, I'm not complicated. I love simple. So what I want to do today, my only goal today, is to help every single person in the room win at the second most important relationship you will ever have. And I'm talking about your relationship with your spouse, your significant other. Simple, right? Let me give you some context. I've been married for 27 years, going on 27 years this May, to the same woman. Her name is Cindy. She's amazing. I think we got a picture. Yeah, all right. So the guy in the fedora, you know who that is. That's me. But the smoking hot-looking mama next to him, that is my wife, Cindy. And she has put up with this simple dog for like 27 years. Actually, it's just 30 years. We've been together for 30 years. And all I'm saying when I say that is I know a little bit about relationships. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not implying that I know everything or that I am an expert. I am certainly not. But here's what I do know. My wife and I, we've done okay. And we love each other. Doesn't mean we always like each other, but we love each other. And some of you, that just messed you up right there. Well, dude, you're like a pastor trucker. What do you mean you don't always like her? Well, we live in the real world, right? And love goes beyond what we're feeling in the moments, and there's times where we just rub each other the wrong way. That's life. That's kind of what we deal with, but it doesn't mean that we don't love each other. Sometimes we fight. And speaking of fighting, the first thing that I want to do today is share with you what I think it takes for every relationship to go the distance. And I think every couple needs a pair of these. And, you know, it's kind of ironic. I was talking to Pastor Nate earlier, and I said, it's kind of ironic that I'm going to talk about this today, and I'm going to use this imagery because over the weekend, like part of my childhood died. Carl Weathers, Apollo Creed, passed away. And if you grew up in that time, you think about that. I'm not talking about the Carl Weathers that was in The Mandalorian. I'm talking about Apollo Creed, the role that he was known for. And y'all know, if you've seen the movies, man, he and Sylvester Stallone, they had epic battles. Rocky and Apollo Creed was amazing. But I think every couple needs a pair of these. But not to do what Apollo and Rocky did in the first two movies. Not to fight against each other. You need to fight for each other. That's one of the secrets to a long-lasting relationship are couples that are willing to fight for each other. And so sometimes you need to put on the gloves. You need to step in the ring. And you need to do battle with the things that are in front of you if you're going to move forward. Then maybe you can get to Rocky 3 and 4 where you're best friends, right? You know, that they segued into that. But every couple, go out and get you a pair of boxing gloves today. Don't use them on each other. If couples would focus on fighting for each other instead of against each other, they'd stand a better chance of going the distance in their relationship. So how do we do that? I mean, is it possible for two people to stay in love forever? You ever thought about that? You ever ask yourself that question like, hey, is this even doable, you know, in today's culture, in today's society? And as you look around at your circumstances, maybe you look at culture, you're probably tempted to say, you know, I don't know that it's possible. But here's the deal. I believe in everyone's heart. Like I truly believe this. I believe in your heart. You actually think that it is. Because all of us, at some point, somewhere, someplace, there's that someone special. And if we just become the right person, or if we just meet the right person, perhaps we can fall in love and stay in love forever. Not just to stay married, all right? Listen to what I'm saying. I'm talking about staying in love. That thing that brought you together in the first place, that spark, that passion, the excitement, the romance. Is it possible for two people to maintain that kind of love throughout a lifetime? I think that most of you believe that it is. I believe it is. And I think part of the reason we believe that way is, folks, that's how we were created. That is how God made us. He put in you and he put in me a desire that goes beyond, you know, just having a couple of friends that you hang out with. It goes beyond just having a group of people that you head down to the local sports bar and you watch UNC beat Duke with. It goes beyond all that. It goes so much further. There's a desire in me and in you for the kind of intimacy that requires us to be able to connect with a one-on-one kind of soulmate, that special person, that fall in love, that best friend. That's a desire that's in you and that's in me. And here's the deal. That's really a reflection of God in our soul and in our heart. Can I get an amen? All right. 9 a.m., 9:15 crowds awake today. I heard they don't let you bring coffee in here. Someone should write a letter to Wake County. Like, that's essential. Yeah, no, I'm kidding. See, the things that a guest pastor can come in and say, just blame it on him. Blame it on Pastor Trucker. All right. Today, here's what I want to do. I want to talk to you about a decision that everyone who's in love makes on a consistent basis. In fact, you probably make this decision on a daily basis. It's sort of this fill in the blank choice. It's a decision that we're not aware all the time that we're actually making. But hopefully as a result of today, I'm going to be able to kind of create this word picture for you and a sort of visual aid that will actually help you catch yourself, all right, when you're making this choice. Everyone who's in love makes this choice. And it's kind of an everyday, all the time, moment by moment thing. You might call it a habit, all right? The way you approach this choice will have a lot to do, I believe, with whether or not you're able to stay in love with your significant other. Now, spoiler alert, I'm going to revisit some things that I shared with you last time I was here. So if you were here last time, you're going to be like, didn't he talk about that last time? Yes, I did. But we're going to go a little bit further. I'm going to take it a little bit deeper, and I want you to use the filter of the context of a love romantic relationship. And this is for everyone. So if you're here and you're married, check, it's for you. If you're here and you're a couple, check, it's for you. If you're a teenager in the house and you're like, dude, I don't even have anybody, you're going to want somebody someday. So you might just check in and listen. If you've been divorced and you haven't found another person to spend the rest of your life with, hey, this is for you. This is for everybody. So lean in, but just know on the front end, we're going to go back to some themes and some things that I talked about last time, because this is something that you intuitively do when you fall in love. But as time goes by, we actually fall out of this habit. So we're going to go back to 1 Corinthians 13. Y'all remember the love chapter? All right, that's how we're going to kick this series off today. 1 Corinthians 13, we're going to be looking at 4 through 7. And if you remember from the last time, a lot of what Paul says here, it makes sense. It's common sense kind of stuff. You're like, I get that. Yeah, totally. I'm with you. It's the part at the end that can leave some of us scratching our heads. So let's jump into it. Let's start at verse 4. Should be on the screens for you. There it is. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. All right? Love does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. Keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. That all makes sense, right? Like, love's patient. It's all of those things. We can wrap our head around that. But we go to verse 7, and this is where it can get tricky for us. Talking about love, Paul says it always protects. Y'all remember? It always trusts. It always hopes. It always perseveres. Always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Now, that's New American Standard. Maybe you've got the New King Jimmy, all right? It says it bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. I don't know about you, but I see this and I would look at this before I really had an understanding of what Paul was saying. And I was like, believes all things? Like always trust that? That seems like love is kind of blind. And I'd be like, I don't know about that one, Paul. Like, I'm with you on the other stuff. I don't know about this one. But the Apostle Paul is communicating an invaluable principle here, and he does it with a very simple phrase. He does it with all four of these, and here's what Paul is getting at. He's saying that in every relationship, at some point along the way, remember, there's a gap between what we expect and how people behave. Some of you are shaking your head. I saw somebody elbow their spouse. Don't do that. We ain't doing that today. Eyes forward, all right? We're going to own our stuff, all right? Don't be elbowing your spouse. Look, the lights may be low in here, but I can see, all right? So I'm checking it out. But just shake your head, all right, if you're tracking. You own your stuff today. What do I mean by this? Well, you said you'd be there at 4 o'clock. You weren't here at 4. It's 4:30. You weren't here. You said from now on you would take part and you would do these chores to help around the house. And those chores aren't getting done, all right? Gap, expectations, behavior, all right? You said you would always speak kindly to me. You're not speaking kindly to me, all right? This is some of the stuff that we walk through and we deal with. You said you never do that again. Now you're doing that again. So at some point, every love relationship, any relationship really, but especially in a romantic relationship, there is going to be a gap between what you expect and how the other person behaves. All right? You said, and it goes like this. You said when you were dating, you said it in your wedding vows. You promised certain mundane things in life. You said you'd pick up the kids on Wednesday, but you're never available to pick up the kids on Wednesday. And it can be deep, y'all. It can be shallow, all right? It can be simple things. It can be complicated things, all right? You'd be like, you want me to mow what? No, I didn't sign up for that. Maybe you did and you don't remember. What I'm saying is there's always expectations, and at some point, there's behaviors, and there's a gap. So here's the deal, the choice you make every time. What you put in this gap. We put something, and we're either going to choose one of two things, and y'all may remember this. We're going to believe the best. This is one of the things that we do in relationships with people we love. When there's a gap between expectations and behavior, we can choose to believe the best. That's option one. All right? Option two. You assume the worst. Making sure I have that right side up. You assume the worst. Did y'all grow up like I did? Did your grandparents and parents tell you what happens to people that assume? Yeah. I always used to say me, not you. Or I'd say you, not me. And they would say, no, it's me and you. But it's true. And if you're sitting here going like, what in the world is he talking about? Just grab somebody from Generation X or older after service and they will explain it to you. All right, I cannot do that here in service, but they'll clue you in. But you can assume the worst about what's going on and what's happening. Why did they do that? Why did they say that? Why did they not come through like they said they would do? You can believe the best, or you can assume the worst. That's what we put in the gap every single time. Now, I don't have to go much further for you to know what your spouse does, all right? And if you're curious, just ask them after the service. They'll tell you what you do when you have that choice. But remember, I said we're going to own our stuff. We're going to focus on what we can control today. So I want to talk about this for just a second. That thing that we place in the middle, it begins right here. Believe the best, assume the worst. As soon as you realize that in your relationship, as soon as you realize there's a gap, I expected this, but here's what you did, we immediately, in our minds, we go somewhere. We believe the best, all right? Well, she's been really busy, you know. She's done so much. She's got a lot going on. She's overwhelmed. She's stressed. It's really not that big of a deal. I know she forgot this, but I'm going to believe the best. I know she'll be there. I know there's a good reason if she wasn't there why she was late. Folks, that's believing the best in those circumstances. Or we can assume the worst, right? We can go to the other side of the equation and we can go here, all right? And we can say, you know what? Does she not own an iPhone? Does she not have a watch? Can she not tell time? Like, it's really not that complicated. They teach you that in preschool, elementary school. They teach you how to tell time. Why is she not here? She's probably not even paying attention. She's probably on TikTok again. I'm sure that no matter what is going on, I am not the priority. This is where we go in our minds when we assume the worst. And we begin to develop an attitude, and what happens? There's a gap. All right? Hey, believe the best when it comes to money. All right? Any couples did I do it wrong? See, y'all keep me straight. Believe the best. I'm still waiting for my coffee to kick in, so y'all give me some grace. All right? With money, anybody ever here had a fight with your spouse over money? Oh, it's okay. No shows of hands. It's all good. But you're like, hey, is he really off budget again? Like, he's allowing me to manage this stuff, but he's off budget again. What did he spend $5 at the gas station for? We didn't budget for that, all right? Maybe he was distracted. You know, maybe there's a lot going on this month. You know what? I'm going to give him a pass. If he spent money and he didn't tell me about it, he had a good reason for it, all right? Believe the best, all right? Or you can assume the worst. He's lousy with money. He's never been good with money, all right? His daddy wasn't good with money. His granddaddy wasn't good with money, all right? I got to do everything around here. I'm the one that manages the bills, all right? When he gets home, I'm going to let him know, all right? You start, and here's what happens sometimes. You start working that neck, all right? You like, I cannot wait till he gets home. And you start to build up this attitude. Y'all know what I'm talking about. There's a point in every relationship. We put something in the gap. And that's where our minds go. And eventually, that will come out of your mouth. I'm going to hope that's going to stay there. But there's two things that are involved in here, and I shared this last time. It's what you see, all right, so what's happening in the moment, the things that you see, and it's who you are. It's how you were raised. It's the things that you've experienced in your life that determine who you are and how you behave. These factor into what you put in the gap. What determines what you put here? What you see. They haven't done what they said they were going to do again, but that's not the only thing. The other thing it drives this is who you are. What you saw growing up, your pain, your hurt, your joys, your previous relationships, fear of being abandoned, fear of being on your own, whatever it might be. We all bring that stuff with us into a relationship, both who we are and what we see. So let me ask you a question. What do you do? What do you do when there's a gap? Do you believe the best? Do you assume the worst? What is your default right now, February 4th, 2024? Because this is a big one. You gotta lean into this if you are going to be successful in your relationship. Because here's what I know. Nobody stood at a church or an oceanfront or an outdoor venue with the person that they were madly in love with, thinking, well, I'll give this 10 years. You didn't do that. This was forever. And then before you know it, some years passed, forever crept up, and you're like, yeah, I don't know about that anymore. You made a commitment, and it usually will come down to what Paul is talking about. Are you going to believe the best, or are you going to assume the worst? Now, I'm not saying it's that simple, and I'm not saying it's that trite and we don't get deeper, because we will. But it does boil down to this for a lot of us. Which way do you tend to lean? As soon as you get the text, he's going to be late again. As soon as you get the text, she's asking you to pick up the kids again. As soon as you get the text, I was going to fix dinner tonight, but my sister came over. Can you pick up dinner tonight? Where do you go? And I know, look, I've been around people long enough now. I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, hey, Derek, can I come up on stage and talk to you real quick? Because you're going to put your dumb little signs away, and we're going to have like a real sermon, all right? Because you need to hear my sad story. Listen to me. I have been doing this long enough. I've heard all the sad stories. In fact, I bet I could trump your sad story with someone else's sad story. And that is not me making light of it. This is the world that we live in, folks. So I'm not being insensitive. I'm not being naive. I just want you to follow with me for a little while this morning. Just put your sad story on hold for just a moment. And now you're thinking, well, I wish they could have at least been here today. You know, we talked about going to church this morning, and there was a convenient excuse why they couldn't come, and here I am, and they needed to hear this. Let's focus on our stuff. Like we need to hear this. We control what we can. So I understand the real world, and I just want you to follow me through this message. And then after the message, you can tell me what to do with my signs, all right? I'm big boy, I can take it. All right, it's all good. So here's the deal. This is the question. And I'm not saying it's justified. I'm not asking you where do you go mentally when there's a gap between expectation and behavior for no reason. I'm asking, where do you naturally go? Where does your spouse naturally go? Where do you go? Because here's what I want you to hear. People who stay in love, they learn to do what I'm talking about. People learn to put something in the gap so that they can move forward. People who stay in love, either intuitively, by force of habit, or however they get there, They learn, and consistently, regardless of circumstances, they learn to go here. When you find people still crazy in love, when you see that elderly couple walking through the mall, that is if you go to a mall anymore, I mean, Amazon's taking care of that. But when you see them holding hands and you're like, aw, I promise you, they've chosen to believe the best about one another. They've been real intentional about through that. Now, does that mean they always get it right? No. None of us always get it right. But it's a constant process that we work. There are going to be gaps. So what you will find here are couples who have both decided and learned and made it a habit of not assuming the worst, but believing the best, which means they're generous in their explanation. All right? So they, in their mind, they come up with an explanation when there's that gap between expectation and behavior. Go back to 1 Corinthians 13:7. What does it say? Love always protects. What does it protect? Love protects the integrity of the relationship. I'm not looking for an opportunity to put something in the negative column. I'm trying to protect this relationship. I'm looking for something to put in the positive column. I'm going to protect this relationship. I'm looking for ways to keep love alive. You see the difference in perspective? You see the intentionality behind this? I'm going to protect this relationship. Always trusts, all right? Always trust. Looks for a generous explanation. That's what always trusting does. Believes all things. Always hopes. That is, hopefully, there's a good explanation. Hopefully, there's just something I don't know. Hopefully, he didn't mean to. Hopefully, I'm not going to give up hope until I'm proven otherwise. Always perseveres. Always looks for the good. Well, how do you do this? Have you and your spouse gotten into that cycle, that crazy cycle where you're just constantly, you've got the gloves on and instead of fighting for each other, you're fighting against each other? Maybe he's good and you're bad at it. Maybe you're great at this and he's bad at it and things are uneven. Maybe he cuts you slack all the time and you think, well, of course he does. I'm next to perfect. I mean, every once in a while I'm wrong. All right, they say nobody's perfect, but I'm pretty darn close. He knows that, all right? And you're going, you're right, just if he'll lean into you, but man, if he messes up, or man, if she messes up. Maybe you hold her to a standard that's unrealistic, guys. And you got to remember, she's got stresses and she's got things on her plate, and she feels things differently than you. Like, fellas, like she feels stuff. All right, she just doesn't put it in the box like we do. We got to remember that. So we got to be more tender when we speak to her. We can't come off as demanding or even demeaning. It's what we put in the gap. Maybe she's great. Maybe you're the one that goes negative. Where do you go with this? Because here's the thing: when you choose to assume the worst, even if there's plenty of history to back it up, every single time you choose to go negative, what you've done is you've contributed to the demise of the relationship. Every time. You say, wait a minute, Derek. I know you got your story, all right? But I really do think you need to hear my story first before you go any further. No, listen to me. Hang tight. Remember, I told you you could tell me what to do with the signs later, all right? Every time. Even when it seems to be justified, even when there's a history of experiences, every time you go there mentally to assume the worst, what happens is it gets expressed in your attitude, it gets expressed in your tone, it gets expressed in your response. Oh, it even gets expressed in your text. Can I give you a little relationship tip? When y'all are fighting with each other, don't do it over text. Oh my gosh. You want to talk about going from 0 to DEFCON 3 like in 2.2? Try to communicate over text. I promise you, it's never going to work out well. Those are face-to-face conversations. And there's a tone and there's a way that you move towards that in order to reach a resolution where you find the common ground. Does it mean you're going to agree on everything? Absolutely not. You're two different people. You're not going to agree on everything. But you find the common ground, and how you do that matters. Text, email, worst. Just take that out of the equation. All right, back to what I was trying to talk about. You become a participant in the demise of the relationship every time you assume the worst. And let me tell you something about your fiance. Let me tell you about something about your spouse, the person you're in love with. Let me tell you something about your partner. The last thing, and I mean the last thing, that they ever want to do is disappoint you. That's not in their heart. That's not what they're looking to do. I don't care how bad the relationship is. I don't care what the history is. The last thing they want to do is to make you feel disappointed in their behavior, in their response, in their performance. I don't care who you are. No one wants to disappoint the person that they're in a relationship with. That's also hardwired in us. So when it happens, when we go negative, when we communicate this, no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, what happens is you just never measure up. You never hit the standard, and you feel exhausted through the whole thing. This is not where you want to be. Every time you overtly, covertly, or subtly communicate that in a relationship that they've disappointed you, what you do is you push them further and further away. And what happens is the gap gets larger and larger and larger because they've been pushed that far away, or equally you've pushed each other that far away. There's a lot of ways that can happen. But one of the most powerful things you can do, and I don't even think I can explain it fully, one of the most powerful things you can do, folks, when there is a gap, is to communicate that you have not disappointed me. You fill the gap with believing the best, and you choose to believe the best, even when there's a pattern of that person not being everything that you think they should be. When you choose to believe the best, what you do is you communicate to them, here's what happens. You put margin in the relationship instead of a gap. And there's a difference. Because a healthy person, even a hurt person, they will respond to margin, and you begin to move in their direction. You begin to close the gap. And so as we kind of wind this down, always know this is a choice. There's a gap. You can create margin when you communicate these things. I trust you. I trust you. I trust you. Even before I hear the explanation, I trust you. Guys, love is supposed to trump our behavior. It does, and hear me when I say that. I'm not talking about excusing the behavior. But there has to be something in love that says, even when there's a pattern, I love you unconditionally no matter what. Now, you may have to love somebody from a distance for a while. You may need some space so that you can calm down and have a healthy, productive conversation, or move towards things in a manner that the situation requires for. But at the base of it all should be unconditional love. Think about this. When it comes to your spouse, what if you were to treat your spouse like you do your kids? You know, when the principal calls up and says, hey, your son did this at school today, and you're like, not my kid. My kid wouldn't do that. Unless you're like me and you're like, yeah, I'm sure they did. That was my kid. But for a lot of us, when somebody says our kid did something that we're just like, absolutely not, where do we go? We're believing the best about our children, aren't we? What if we were believe the best about our spouse in those kind of situations? How would that change the dynamic of your relationship? I'm talking about margin. Margin. So what this means is, hey, come my way, move my way, come my way. There's a gap, but instead of using the gap to make a point and drive you further from me, I'm going to use the gap to leverage love, and I'm going to bring you closer to me. The more gaps there are, folks, the more opportunities there are to say, I love you anyway. I'm not giving up hope. I endure all things. I bear all things. I hope all things. I believe all things. And you come my way. Listen, I'm not saying that you don't have difficult conversations. I'm not suggesting for a moment that you do not confront the realities of the relationship. But what I am saying is after those conversations, maybe sometimes before those conversations, but after those conversations, when somebody's had their say, when everybody's tried to work it out, even when you're mad, the next time there's a gap, you still have a choice to make. Will you choose believe the best? Or will you choose to assume the worst? You're the only one that can make this decision. But it takes both of you making the right decision. It takes both of you choosing to believe the best. To be able to get to that place in your life where you fell in love years and years ago and you're still in love today. Not just coexisting in the same space. Relationships that last are relationships that thrive because people choose to believe the best. Will you pray with me today? Father, just want to thank you for the time that we've had together. And God, this isn't rocket science. Paul wasn't jumping into and presenting something that, God, on the surface is complicated, but life is hard. Two individual people trying to live and function as one unit, one team. God, that is a hard thing to do by ourselves, which is why it's so important to have you at the center of our relationship. But God, healthy patterns and healthy behaviors that are founded in the truth of your word, God, they give us the best shot to be successful. So I pray over every single person here today. God, I pray that as they walk through the moments of life, the ones that are difficult, the ones that are great, God, I pray that they would be able to do what your word calls them to do, and they'd be able to function with uncommon grace, God, in the reality of their situations. God, bless the marriages, bless the relationships here today. And we give you the praise and the glory for it. Amen.